Hi guys, in this very tutorial today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to cut and sew a corset with a ready-made bra cup. It is very simple, and if this is what you seem interested in, stay tuned until the end of this tutorial. I've already marked out all my vertical measurements so that I won't waste much of your time right here. You already know how to mark all this out. So I have the top length, which is the shoulder line as well. I have the chest line, which is 2 inches away from the bust point. I have my bust point, which is 11 inches. I have my under bust point, 14 inches. Waistline is 17, and top length is 21 inches. Now I also have my neck width and my neck depth, which is 4 inches. Okay, now from here we are going to start, and to start we are going to start from the bust point and then go up by 1 inch. After you go up by 1 inch from the center front, you are going to go in by half an inch. Also from the bust point, you are going to come in by half an inch, and you go ahead and connect this line with your straight ruler. Okay, now this line is the distance between your two breasts. Okay, now from here, from the center front again, you're going to mark out your nipple to nipple measurements. So my nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches divided by 2. I have 4, so I went ahead to mark these 4 inches from the under bust down to the top length. Next, you're going to have to take in your dart. Okay, and this dart intake is going to be on the waistline. Okay, now because I'm drafting this for a medium size, I'm going to make use of half an inch from both sides, which is 1 inch dart intake. And once you are done with this, go ahead and connect this into the under bust point and then down to the top length. All right, now after this, the next step you're going to take is to bring in your bra cup. Now this bra cup, my bust is size 36, but I'm making use of a bra cup of size 38. So whichever size of bra cup you're going to buy should be 2 inches bigger than your actual bust. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place this bra cup such that it won't exceed below the under bust line, and also the half inches from the center front is not going to exceed that. And then from the chest line, I'm going to come down by half an inch and go ahead and connect just like you can see me doing right now. Okay, you guys, also if you notice, I shaped my bra cup. That was because the bra cup I bought was a little bit flat. Okay, so to make it very deep or a little bit deeper, you're going to have to shape it from the center to create room for your bust to fit in properly well. So after connecting this, I went ahead to ensure that my bra cut stays there, and then I'm going to use my tape to measure my bust circumference divided by 4, and then I will mark it on my chest line and then my bust line. You can see that to do this, I made sure that my bra cup stays right there before I mark it. Don't remove your bra cup and then you mark out this your bust circumference divided by 4 inches. Okay, if not, your bust is going to be flat. Okay, now after that, you are going to go ahead and divide your under bust circumference by 4 also, and whatever you have, you go ahead and mark it out. Do the same thing for the waistline, and then coming to the top length, you are going to make use of your hip circumference divided by 4, and you go ahead and also mark it out. Okay, So you're going to go ahead and replace this 1 inch dart intake from the waistline, and once you are done with that, you go ahead and connect all your body measurements together. Okay, so you guys, at this point, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, turn on your post notification to get notifications once I upload a new video. Now after this, the next step you are going to take is to insert your stitching allowance. I'm going to make use of 1 inch for my stitching allowance. It all depends on your preference. If you want to make use of 1.5 inches, go ahead and make use of 1.5 inches. Okay, and you go ahead and connect all the lines. Now that we are done with this, we are also going to insert our hemming allowance. Okay, and I'm going to make use of 1 inch. Now I want to explain something. If you don't want to insert your allowances, it's up to you. It's okay, you can do that while cutting on fabric. Okay, now you guys, because I want the hem not to be straight and to be curvy, I'm going to go ahead and locate the center of my hem and then simply connect using 1 inch above the hemming allowance. I hope you guys are understanding me. If you don't, please, like I always say on this channel, glue your eye to the screen and there is no way you're not going to understand what I am doing right now. Okay, sorry you guys, the upper part of this video is not showing. I'm sorry about that, but for you to cut out your neck on that shoulder part, make sure to insert your 1/2 inch for shoulder stitching allowance. Okay, and you can see I'm going ahead to cut out all my front block. Okay, and you can see how I'm cutting this out. You guys, you can also see that our yoke came out for this pattern drafting, so it is very easy for you to insert your yoke right now if you want to make use of a yoke. Okay, but for this tutorial I'm making it a tube top. In that case, I'm going to do away with this yoke, but if you want to make use of this yoke, it's fine. Okay, in that case you have your yoke. Okay, so you guys, you can see what we have. This is our front block. We are going to head over to cut out our back. So for the back, we are going to be making use of the front block. Okay, now I've brought in a new pattern paper and I've placed in my front block. If you take notes, you should notice that I placed my center front right on the center back of this paper. Okay, this is because I don't want to make use of a zipper. I want the back of this corset top to be a loop, so I'm going to be lacing it. Okay, but if you want to make use of a zipper, in that case you should have 2 inches before you place your center front. You guys, I honestly hope all this I'm saying is making sense, which I believe should. So I'm going to make use of this my marker and then using a broken line to indicate all my lines, the important lines. Can you see? So I'm going to use it to mark out all the edges and also use it to indicate all my dots. Okay, and after I am done with this, I'm going to quickly go ahead and remove the front pattern. Okay, so you can see, and I'm just going to use my marker again to make these lines visible enough for you guys to see it clearly. And once I am done with that, we are going to determine the back neckline. Okay, now from the top, I'm going to go ahead and come down by 1.5 inches. That is how deep I want the neck of the back. Okay, and then I went ahead to simply connect it and then marked out my darts. So you guys, can you see what I am doing right now? And once I am done connecting my darts, I'm going to go ahead and cut out my back block. So guys, after I marked out the darts, I'm going to go ahead and tighten the upper part of this back, okay, to avoid any form of gaping. And I did that using 1/2 inch from both sides. All right, and then I would simply go ahead and cut this out. Okay, now let me explain something here. After cutting this out, you would notice that we have the center back and the side back. Okay, now some people make use of just the side back for the back of their corsets. Okay, or you can simply go ahead and make use of the whole center back and the side back. But now I want my back to be very open. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead from the center back and go in by 2 inches more, and then I would connect and cut it out. Okay, for some people's corset back, you would notice that their back is very open, so this is how to get it. Okay, and I'm using these 2 inches because I want my back to be a bit modest. Okay, if you want it very open, go ahead and remove all the center back totally. Okay, if you also want to add a modesty panel, you can make use of that to cover up your back. So you can see we have the center front, the side back, the center back, and all our blocks. Okay, now once you're done with this, we are going to go ahead and bring in our fabric, and then we use it to cut the cup cover. Okay, so I'm going to measure out my cup, and the width of my cup is 4 inches. I folded my fabric into 8 because I want to cut out my 2 cup cover at once. So that 4 inches, I'm going to add 1 inch for sewing allowance, and I'm going to just measure it all around and cut it out. So you can see I have my 2 corset cover. I'm going to simply go ahead and cut out my lining piece as well. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same thing, and from there, once I am done, you can see I have my lining piece and my actual piece. Now once I am done, I'm going to fold into 2 just like this, and after I fold, I'm going to locate the center. But before that, make sure to use your pin to secure it down, and then fold and locate the center. So you can see I've used this chalk to locate the center, and from the 2 edges, I'm going to go in by 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've measured out 3/4 of an inch down there. I'm also going to repeat the same thing to the other end, and then I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect into the center, okay, of this circle, and then go ahead and cut it out. So you guys, this is how to cover up your ready-made bra cup. Okay, so I'm going to move over to my sewing machine and then place this right side facing each other. I'll use 1/2 inch to join this right at the center. So I'll finish joining, and you can see this is one part of my actual piece and that of my lining. I'm going to use my steam iron to open up the seam, but before that you're going to have to notch, and then you bring in your bra cup and then cover it just like this. For you to cover this easily, you're going to be making use of your hemming tape. Okay, so I'm going to simply show you how to achieve that. Okay, so this is my ready-made bra cup. I have my hemming tape right here, so I'm going to place my ready-made bra cup and then simply go ahead and use my hemming tape to place all around the upper part of my cup, and then I'm going to use my steam to iron my fabric into it. Now, to make this very easy for you to iron in, make use of your tailor's ham. Okay, we are done ironing this and it's time for us to go ahead and sew this. Okay, I've gone ahead to sew it around, and now it's time for us to trim the excess. If you are trimming out the excess, ensure that you leave half an inch seam allowance all around it. Okay, so now we are done. It's time for us to cover this up with our lining. So this is the lining. You're going to have to place the right side of the lining facing the right side of your cup, and you're going to go ahead and sew using half an inch on just the upper parts. Okay, so we are going to do this for the two cups. And now, for you to ensure that your lining piece goes inside without poking out, you're going to have to use your hemming tape to place in between the cup and the lining. So you guys, this is what we have after we are done. Okay, now I've gone ahead to use that same fabric to form my bias strip, and then I've gone ahead to cut out my center front. Okay, now if you take a look, you will see that the bias strip is just into 3, and that is all I needed because I want it just for the center. Okay, so I'm going to place it where it's supposed to be, and you can see I finished placing them. Next, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my lining. You can also see that I've fused in interface into the lining and the actual piece, and what I used here was hairstay. So I'm going to go ahead and sew just like this. Can you see? And then I'll place my notch. So I made the sewing on just the upper parts, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the right side. Okay, and once I am done turning this, I'm going to give it a good press. So you guys, can you see? Now next, I'll go and sew right on this part. Okay, you can see where my hands are showing you. So go ahead and make your stitches just to hold the lining and the actual piece together. And once you are done with that, you're going to bring in your cup. Okay, now this place you need to pay good attention to detail. You can see how I'm placing my bra cup. I'm not going to place it right side facing each other, rather wrong side facing each other. Okay, because the allowance is going to come out showing on the right side. Okay, that is the seam allowance. So you can see I've used this to indicate what I should do. I've gone ahead to fix in my two bra cups, and also gone ahead to secure the rough part with a bias strip. So you can see this is the rough part. You can also go ahead and trim it down as much as you can. Okay, so I've done one part of this bias. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same thing on the lining for you to see what I'm trying to explain. So you can see what I'm doing right there. I'm going to first of all open up my bias and then sew to the that part, and then I'll flip it over and also top stitch. Okay, now if you want to make use of under wire, where I'm sewing right now is where you're going to insert your under wire. Okay, but for this tutorial I'm not going to be making use of that. That's why I will simply go ahead and secure the upper part. Okay, so I'm stitching the upper part right now, but if you are to insert the under wire, you're going to insert that before you go ahead and stitch. Now you guys, can you see the inner part of this corset? This is looking very beautiful and neat, right? It's time for us to insert the boning. So I'm making use of this lighter because I want the edges to be smooth. Okay, you already know why we are doing this, so that this won't be poking on any of us or any clients you are making this for. Okay, and for me to insert my boning, I'm going to make sure that I leave about 3/4 of an inch down on that hem, because you don't want this your plastic boning interfering with the hem by the time you want to hem your top. Okay, so you are going to do this and then move over to your ironing table and make sure that you iron this flat. So you can see what I have. You can see that I left about 3/4 of an inch down there. Okay, so now we are done with the front. We are going to move over to the back. So guys, we are moving over to the back right now, and this is the actual piece and the lining piece beside it. I've also fused in my interface. Now the first thing you should do is right on the center back, you're going to measure the distance you want your loops to be away from each other, and this is exactly what I am trying to mark out. So I'm making use of 1 inch. So my loop is going to be 1 inch away from each other. So I've marked out one part of the back. I'm going to use that to mark the same thing on the other part, because they are supposed to be the same. Okay, they're supposed to match each other. I also like to use my bias to form my loops. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew tiny strip of bias. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out using 2.5 inches. I've cut out the first one. I'm going to use that first one to cut out the remaining part, so you can see all my loops. And you guys already know I've done several tutorials on how to fix this, so I'm going to go right to my sewing machine and then fix these loops right at the center back. Okay, and I'm going to do that for both the back piece. So I've finished fixing this. Now it's time for us to turn this with our lining. Okay, now for us to make this loop very firm, we are going to have to insert boning right on the center back, and you're going to do this on the seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to do this for one part of this back. I'm going to do that, sew it, and then I would use the other one to show you exactly how to achieve this. Okay, so right here I'm trying to show you what to do, but for this one I've already done it. Let me turn it over so that you guys can see what I have right here. So can you see? And adding that boning to that particular point would make your loops stay stronger. Okay, so I'm going to use this one to demonstrate what I did. So you're going to have to sew in your lining into your actual piece, just like this, using 1/2 inch, and that is to the upper part. And after you sew, you're going to notch and then top stitch. So after you top stitch, you're going to have to turn your lining just like you're seeing me doing like this, and then you're going to place your boning. Now you guys, this is a ridgeline boning, okay, which is the sewable boning. So right on that boning there is this part that you can run a stitch, and that is where you're going to be inserting your stitch. And you can see at the center back, the boning facing towards the center back is not where I sewed, but the one inside is where I made my stitches, okay. And then you guys, this is what we have. You can see I've torn it. Next I'm going to run a stitch on the other part, on the inner part of the fabric. Can you see what I'm doing? I don't know if you're understanding me. I've gone ahead to do this for the both of them, and I went ahead to use my steam to iron this flat, and this is what we have, you guys. So you can see I've run a stitch also. I'm going to bring it up so that you can see. So can you see the stitch? And this will help hold the boning tightly, okay. So now we are done. It's time for us to join our front and our back piece together, and you're going to go ahead and arrange this properly well, and then use your 1-inch seam allowance to join this together. There is no really any need of measuring this because we already have our perfect measurements, okay. And you guys, this is what our corset looks like. Can you see how the back is very open, okay. So it's time for us to go hem the down part of our top, okay. And I'm going to make use of bias to do that. You guys, you can see I've also formed my rope, okay. So I'm going to lace this up for you guys to see what we have right here, and this will bring us to the end of this particular tutorial. I hope this tutorial is very helpful. If this tutorial is helpful, you guys, please give this video a thumbs up, share to get more people to see this particular video because it is very important. Subscribe if you haven't done yet, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.